Now this is, honestly, maybe a few years too late. But I digress. You can let me know your thoughts. Today, we are talking about Carolina Hurricanes defenseman Alexander Nikishin. A guy who, by all accounts, is a good young player. Nikishin is 24 years old, 6'3", 218, a left-handed defenseman who is on and who was drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes in a really, really nice draft position. 69th overall in the 2020 draft. Nikishin made headlines because back when he was in the KHL as the captain for SKA St. Petersburg a few years ago, he was considered the best defensive prospect outside the NHL. Maybe not named Lane Hutson or something like that. Nikishin was in this territory where a lot of folks said, hey, it's going to be him, it's going to be Hutson, it's going to be, I guess you could toss Schaefer in there as well. These were the best young defensemen who were going to make the biggest impact in the National Hockey League by the time they made their debuts. And Alexander Nikishin came off of a season where he put up 33 points in 81 games, 11 goals, 22 assists. Not bad for a first year in the NHL, especially after making his debut with the playoffs last year in Carolina. Nikishin is still relatively young at 24, but this is a guy whose contract has actually expired already. Yeah, when you're that old and you're coming over from Russia, sometimes you don't get the full 3-4 year entry-level ELC with slide-down possibility. It's like, oh no, this guy needs a contract now. He's an RFA. The Carolina Hurricanes need to pay him. He's probably going to cost a lot because not only was he more than passable in his first NHL season, but he also wasn't really utilized all too much. You can see these games over here, 10 minutes, 14 minutes, 12 minutes, 13. There were some games where he was played more, but he wasn't one of the top guys. But he could be. He has that talent level. But either way, the Alexander Nikishin situation has been opening up here. Darren Dreger spoke about how multiple teams have confirmed Carolina is considering a trade involving Nikishin. The 24-year-old pending RFA D-man had 33 points in 81 games in the regular season. Dreger said that Nikishin is an RFA, and the expectation is that there will be hefty contract demands. There's a lot of interest around the NHL, but that contract and how large it might be is also a bit of a deterrent at this stage. We've seen the Carolina Hurricanes try to go through these money-saving moves. It's why Jesperi Kotkaniemi's name was linked in buyout talks for quite a while. He didn't get bought out yet, at least, but still, Kotkaniemi is a guy that maybe can allow the Hurricanes to save some bucks. Which is why, when you take a look at this article that was posted by Cam Robinson on Elite Prospects, Smoke, Buzz, and Intel, what the EP crew was hearing ahead of the 2026 NHL Entry Draft, there was a very particular section written about Nikishin. The list of teams that are interested in this guy keeps on growing. San Jose, St. Louis, LA, Anaheim, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. The number Cam has consistently heard attached to Nikishin is 8 years and $8 million annually. It appears several teams are comfortable paying that freight, but maybe not Carolina. We'll see if anyone gets there. Now, I also have to say this at the beginning. I mean, it's not the beginning of the video anymore, but if Alexander Nikishin is actually traded by the time this video is up on YouTube, then yeah, we'll make another video, I guess, or we'll change the title into something silly on this one just to make myself look a little more like I know what I'm talking about. But my question is on the Vancouver Canucks. If they are one of the interested teams in Alexander Nikishin, I do question just how that fits in. Because Nikishin is 24 years old. Obviously, you can say, oh, well, he's 24 years old. That is a reasonably young player. That's younger than Petey. That's younger than Besser, younger than Demko. It's younger than Rossi. By, only a few months, I think. Yeah, Nikishin, October 2001. Marco Rossi, September 2001. Okay, so, yeah, Nikishin is just a tad younger than Marco Rossi. But then you gotta think about it like, well, Marco Rossi is already a name that some Canucks fans are saying should be an inevitable tradable asset, because if you're building for 5 years out, would it not be reasonable to maximize your losing window in the now by giving Rossi some opportunity to be a top center, giving him that point production, giving him all the tools in the world to up his value, and then flipping him for multiple firsts or whatever, allowing your team to get worse in the process, and then taking a guy who's 18, 19 in the draft instead of a guy in Rossi who is 24 years old right now and he'll be 29 by the time the Vancouver Canucks are competitive again? You can make the same argument for Alexander Nikishin. It's why, on the R Canucks subreddit, there are some folks who are going out there and replying saying, hey, maybe Nikishin could come over if Pettersson goes the other way. But I can't see Vancouver being in on that. It would be a mixed message. But talent is talent, I suppose. Would it be? Super young player? Seems like the Canucks would be in on that. Nikishin is going to be 25 in the new season, so not super young. You add talent when an opportunity presents itself. Treat players like liquid assets. Nikishin on an 8x8 could fetch us a great return in 3 years while he is still in his prime and the cap continues to climb. If we haven't shown meaningful improvement by then it might be a reasonable idea to give the keys to the car to Alexander Nikishin, let him be the Vancouver Canucks' new version of Quinn Hughes, or give him this role that is mentored under Filip Hronek, allow him to prosper and develop into a number 1D, and then trade him when his value is absolute peak. Same thing with Rossi. There is a buy and sell element to this that you can kind of apply to the way you view hockey players when you're a rebuilding team. Obviously, if you're a competitive team, you're not thinking about it in this way. You're thinking about, okay, let's get Nikishin because he's good, and he's going to continue to be good, and we want good players because we want to be good and we want to compete. We can sign this guy to an 8x8 because by the time the cap rises and rises and rises and top-tier defensemen are making $12 million a year, this guy will be a steal at that dollar amount. And that's a very optimistic way to view it. I understand that Alexander Nikishin is not guaranteed to being a Quinn Hughes level talent at the NHL level, but this guy was hyped up for so long in the KHL. It's almost like, yeah, it'd be quite the shame if he didn't become, at the very least, a 70-point defenseman. Like, the expectations and the bar have been set so high for Nikishin that if he is only like a 40, 30, 50-point defenseman year by year, I think some might be saying that's a little bit of a disappointment. So maybe the Vancouver Canucks, they have themselves an opportunity to take on some reasonably younger guys and grow alongside of them, allow these players to develop their skills, get that point production up there, and then maybe flip them to a cup contender when the Canucks are trying to be more aggressive and selling off their assets. It's not always just get all the guys that are under the age of 25, because sometimes guys that are under the age of 25 happen to be 24. And that is a really stupid thing that I just said, but I do think if Alexander Nikishin was like 18, 19, 20, it'd be a lot easier to say, Vancouver should get him and keep him for the long haul, because he'll fit in with the Villanders and the Bouillams and all them. But he's 24. It's a little too much, I think. I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible. If the Canucks take this guy on and they think he can be a meaningful part of the rebuild long term, then I'm not going to question it because he'll be 32 by the time the contract is over. It's kind of right in that sweet spot. But I'd rather have Landon Dupont at 18 versus Alexander Nikishin at 25. That's just kind of the way I'm viewing it, especially from a long-term lens on the Vancouver Canucks side of things. So with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the Canucks being one of these teams interested in Alexander Nikishin? If the guy is traded before this video is public on YouTube, then okay, I'm a fool. If Jason Robertson is also traded, then that's a double whammy. If Elias Pettersson is traded, if all the guys get gosh darn traded because it's Monday morning after the draft, then honestly, I might just record a video of me spilling water all over myself and upload that to the internet. Who really knows? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section about this Nikishin thing. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.